definitely tell some story about entrepreneurship. So during this pandemic, many of the businesses, they are evolving, they might have challenges, and few people are thinking through how to get onto the new business in this. So these streams have evolved, and I thought I will bring one of the guru, Rajan Jeshwaji is our guest today. So welcome to the show, Rajanji. And the
Namaste.
insight with Praveen Puram is purely a knowledge session to all the NRI friends. And the show is evolved with all the interests and people requests. And today we are with you to learn more about the entrepreneurship. So before I hand over it to you, I just wanted to brief about our guest, Rajan Jeshwaji. What can I tell about him? He's an accomplished senior serial technology entrepreneur. He's an engineering entrepreneurship at IIT Bombay, Gandhinagar, and VNIT Nagpur, and he served for Thai Silicon Valley. As you all know, Silicon Valley is the number one for the IT. So many of the emerging software companies evolved from Silicon Valley, and we have Raj from that area, and he has served as a CEO and chairman for many of the companies. He had Dino, one of the companies which he was a CEO and chairman for Dino from 2009 to 12. And he also volunteered full-time for Thai Silicon, and I also served as a president from 2005 to 2008 and director from 2003 to 2004. And he also was a co-founder and chairman and CEO of Selectica, and he also served as an executive vice president for the company called Opti. And Raji, I would like to hand over it to you to tell more about yourself. I think it is very less to tell about yourself, and I would let you tell more about yourself.
Well, I've been kind of fortunate. I think I'm a very fortunate person. And I'll tell you one thing, that entrepreneurs do need a little bit of luck in their life. I think we all need luck, but entrepreneurs need even more luck because, they basically risk everything, right? So I've been lucky, and I've been lucky twice. So that is pretty good. So the reason why I say that is, most of us basically, we work hard through our education, our academic life, especially if you're Indian, born in India, your parents really believe that education is the basis of your future, good life, right? So they make us work hard, study hard, and so on. They have high hopes for their children. And so Indians put so much energy into their children's studies because we believe education is a step. And so after that, after education, we start our jobs. And, for 15 to 17 years, I had a corporate life doing well, at GE and then at Intel, and then at a small company called Chips, and, slowly going up the corporate ladder. And, after 17 years, I had moved from an individual engineer to, a first-line manager, and then basically made it to, director of marketing. And, but it was a slow 17-year journey. And, I thought I was quite happy with what I'd achieved. But, I found in Silicon Valley in particular that some of my classmates, they would start something very small, but they would be a founder of this small little thing, writing some code or designing some product or providing services. So they would start something very, very small, which looked very insignificant. But in 3 to 4 years, suddenly the companies were big. They were global companies. They were providing services globally, selling products globally, doing business with the biggest companies. And they, were suddenly going public, and they were buying these amazingly beautiful homes and cars and all that. And, you know, it's like the magic. I was wondering, like, here I have worked for 17 years and, I can barely afford the mortgage on a small house in San Jose. And my classmates, they started something very insignificant. And in 4 to 5 years, they're buying mansions in Palo Alto, Los Altos Hills, and so on. And not only that, they're getting so much recognition in industry, right? So, and they seem to have so much capability, and they're living such an exciting life. And so, so that's when an opportunity came along where 3 or 4 of my friends said, "Hey, we would like to start this small thing." And I said, "Okay, let us start this small thing for designing chips." And we started this small thing called Opti, and you can actually see the video on YouTube of our small thing. It was a small little room, few hundred square feet, and we had a little bit of equipment, and we started designing chips, and that small thing in 4 years went public for $400 million. Amazing.
Wow.
And then became the world's largest chipset company with $170 million in revenue. We are doing business with IBM, with HP, with all the big companies at NEC all over the world, buying products, selling products, all kinds of things. And that's the magic of entrepreneurship. And same thing happened with Selectica. Found this another engineer, Sanjay Mittal, and then and a third person called Vasudev Pandarkar, and we said, "Hey, why don't we do some software that does a little bit of configuration, which can allow people to choose products, and based on their wishes, automatically the software will put a solution together." And simple, small idea, and we started, building the software, and suddenly, like, one company came along and said, "Hey, we would like it to solve this problem," and then we applied that, and then a bigger problem, and within 5 years, Selectica, from this little software that could do a little bit, we ended up taking it public for $5 billion. It was, it's a monstrous number, and from nothing, we had created something worth $5 billion, 800 employees getting jobs all over the world. About 600 of them were in India, 300 here. So the point is that, entrepreneurship is a little bit like nature, where, the seed is so small, and you wonder, what can the seed do? This little seed, whether it is a mango seed, or whether it's an oak seed, or whether any seed is so small. But then, that seed, you put it in a good environment with water and soil and sun, etc., and suddenly it creates 3-4 cells, and they become roots, and they go down in the water, and they find water. They say, "Oh, we are getting some energy from here, so let's put up some leaves." And then you put up one leaf, and then it says, "Oh, I'm getting good energy from this leaf. Let me put out 2 leaves, and then 4 leaves, and then 8 leaves." And exponentially, that seed grows into an oak tree, which looks magnificent and which is amazing, right? So, and entrepreneurship is the same thing, where a little idea that does a little good thing for people, if you provide it the right ecosystem around it, then it can flower and bloom into something magnificent.
Awesome.
And then you can't even understand, how do you go from seed to this thing, right? Everybody only sees the big oak tree. They never see the seed. But really, it started with the seed.
Very well said, Raj. I think you have compared it very practically, and how the seed goes into a tree. And yeah, definitely that's the main interest today to talk about. And let's start with our journey as an entrepreneur. And today's topic, like 4 E's.
Mhm.
So when you compare education, entrepreneurship, employment, and also ethics. So today we definitely want to connect the dots. And how would you define today's entrepreneurship today? How do you define that?
Yeah. So I would say that, entrepreneurship, as you saw, just like in nature, unless a seed finds itself in a supportive environment, it is not going to bloom. It is not going to, it's going to put out a few roots. The roots don't find any water, they don't find any nutrition, and the suit says, Abhi to mar gaye. We are dead. No point. We cannot go anywhere in this environment. So entrepreneurship requires a supporting, fertile environment in order to, grow. And basically, when Silicon Valley obviously created this entrepreneurial ecosystem, they call it, right? And the ecosystem is the VCs that provide the money, the lawyers that provide the legal services, the accountants, the engineers, the marketing people, the salespeople, you know, everything is around. And the entrepreneur can just access these resources in the ecosystem in order to build their company, right? Take that little idea forward, right? And so Silicon Valley had it. But now the beautiful thing that has happened is that everybody saw what Silicon Valley has achieved or can achieve, right? So today, like, this little 50 square mile area around Silicon Valley,
Mhm.
the economy of that 50 square mile area is bigger than the economy of probably India. This 50 square mile area's economy is bigger than that of India, if you can imagine, bigger than that of Russia, right? So the thing is that the whole world said, what is this magic? What is going on in this thing called Silicon Valley? And, when I was president of TIE, we would have delegations from Egypt, from Korea, from India, from UK, everywhere coming to say, what is the Silicon Valley mein hai kya? What is there in the Silicon Valley that allows you to create these amazing businesses that change lives and change the way business is done and everything. And so we would try to explain to them that we have all this is, and everybody has tried to create their own Silicon Valleys. And the great thing for entrepreneurs anywhere in the world right now is that there is a very supportive environment all over the world for entrepreneurs. So it feels like a big risk to give up your job at Reliance or Infosys or whatever, to start and building and developing your idea. But the ecosystem is there, whether anywhere, whether it's in Bombay or Bangalore or wherever you are in the US, anywhere in the world. So the ecosystem is there. And now, the question is, how do you trigger it? How do you get people off the comfortable 9 to 5 job
Exactly.
uh,
So, Raji,
and to get into education, get into entrepreneurship?
so Raj, the world is seeing the Silicon Valley now, right? So in this pandemic, everything has been digital, remote, virtual.
Yeah.
So in this context, do you still see Silicon Valley to be the same, or it is diluted across anywhere you can have the ecosystem? What are their
Yeah. So clearly you can have the ecosystem anywhere. And actually, if you think about it, think of how many unicorns are there in India. At last count, there were almost 50 unicorns in India, right? Swiggy, of course, Flipkart, etc., right? Ola, all of these 50 unicorns of India, they took ideas of other unicorns in Silicon Valley and created a unicorn for the Indian economy, right? To serve Indian customers the way Indians. And so the same thing is true, whether it's in the Middle East, whether it's in Korea, everywhere in the world, the digital economy that kind of Silicon Valley drove and is driving and so on is now can be done anywhere and by anyone. It does not matter whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you're male, whether you're female, no matter what capability you have, whether you are an IIT student or whether you're a BHU student or whether you are a VNIT, any person can become a successful entrepreneur. In fact, I would say that some of my most successful entrepreneurs come from the smallest universities of India. They don't come from IIT. When I taught at VNIT Nagpur, I've had some amazing startups happen by entrepreneurs from my batches there. So the thing is that entrepreneurship is all about solving a problem for somebody.
Exactly.
Right?
So Rajji, based on your experience, right? You have been an architect for the entrepreneurship program, and you have taught many students in India and also in the US, right? So
Yes.
what has been your experience? What has been your experience with the difference in the folks in US and India? Can you share some light on that?
Well, the folks in the US are very confident of the fact that they'll be successful. and I would almost say that they're overconfident. So that is, I think a part of being born and living in a very prosperous and largely easier to succeed economy, environment, right? The US is a much easier place to have a good life and be successful. And the kids here haven't seen adversity and haven't seen, what happens to people who, fail, right? In India, if you fail in your job or your company or whatever, the price is very high in general, used to be at least. But in the US, if you fail, in 1 week, you'll get another opportunity. It's like you don't have to wait too long. It's like failure is actually not a blemish on your career. And that's what enables, US entrepreneurs US people, students, to be overconfident, to be confident and go at it in an aggressive way. What I see in India is that the parents, the environment, even the colleagues of my students, all want to be a little bit more conservative and cautious. So and entrepreneurship does require you to take a jump. You can't learn swimming without taking a jump into the water, right? So simple as that.
You have rightly said, the adversity in the US folks is the confidence and the presentation skills, Raj. So if you see in the US learning system, the presentation comes right from the childhood. Even a first grader, a second grader can do presentations. And after seeing this, I know that there is a lot of huge improvement in India too. So, but my question to you would be, How do you link this entrepreneurship and education, and at what stage in the curriculum do you think we should have in India?
Yeah. So I would say that, see, entrepreneurship is a way of thinking about life, right? It's all about how you think about life and how well you understand uh, kind of how the economy works, right? How businesses, industries happen. If you feel, can you hold a minute? Guys, keep quiet. Keep quiet. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry about that. No disturbance behind me. Yeah. Okay, so entrepreneurship, requires you to understand the fact that industries are not God given. The people like the Birlas and the Tatas and others, you know, that is, they are not the only ones who can run a business or can start a company or, make big fortunes, right? So as soon as people realize, or students, young people, and an entrepreneurial person understands that, industry is really like nature, right? So in nature, you know the plants start everywhere, and some of them, by doing good business practices and being competitive, being innovative, being hardworking, being, can actually become big companies. And once you realize that, these are skills that can be actually developed, it's not luck only. Luck is when you fall into a good environment where the seed starts growing. But then you need to have the skills to succeed, right? So basically, what what drove me to get into teaching entrepreneurship in India is the realization that, we have this amazing pool of of young Indians that, have the ability to start companies. So rather than taking a job, they can create a job, right? Create hundreds of jobs, right? So, and a company, India needs, you know, more and more jobs, right? So we can't have the brightest people take a job, take one job, right? Why those brightest people should create thousands of jobs. Each bright person should create 1,000 jobs, right? So once, so I wanted to kind of instill that confidence and skill level and kind of the understanding of how it's done to the masses. And by now, I think I must have taught like 3 or 4 thousand students over the last 7 years entrepreneurship, and hundreds of them have actually started companies. And my viewpoint is, there's no need to jump into entrepreneurship. You have to wait till you feel passionate about an idea, right? Just like Praveen, you are somehow or the other, that idea to start this channel
Yes.
and to is something that became your passion, right? And now you think about it, you sleep about it, in your sleep, and you're eating, drinking, you're thinking about it all the time. And that is what
Yes.
passion is, right? So the same way, that passion has to get into a person. But once that passion comes in, you still have to have the skills to build the company, right? Build the organization, create the company culture, create the finances, create the, you know, uh, scalability, this running of the company, etc. So it has to be, companies have to be grown in a proper fashion, and those are the skills that need to be taught to everybody. So you asked the question of when. So I would say that, it's a process. So school children, when they're in school, we should teach them basically the presentation skills, the confidence, the ability to do things themselves, to solve problems themselves, it's got to be a creative, innovative, innovation generative environment, right? So that's what you want in their young age. And then when you come to university level, college level, give them the skills to understand how to manage people, how to do marketing, how to do sales, how to negotiate, how to do customer service, how to do quality, how to do engineering, all these skills you give them in engineering, in your engineering or marketing or business or any school, any education you do in your college. So by the time they come out, they are creative, but they also have the ability to build. You put the two together, when that passion hits, you're going to get an entrepreneur is going to flower.
Awesome. Raj, I think you have rightly said. So definitely every parent, not only the educational system, but the parents also should try to, nurture your kids in such a way that they are very, very confident and independent. More than all, I feel independence also plays a great role in US, right? Right
Yeah.
from the beginning, everything they do by themselves. I think that is the main thing, Raj. For me, I see a lot of kids here catching.
Yeah, it's like most Indian engineer Indian engineers never use their hands. They only use their mind, and they
Yes.
think that everything can be done by using your mind. But actually, you have to use your hands too.
And
You have to build things. You have to learn by doing things, right? So uh, that is so I one of the things that we want to incorporate into our entrepreneurship education is DIY, do it yourself. So we want them to, whenever they have an idea, whether it is making something or whether it's writing some software or doing something, DIY, do it yourself. Maybe you're not the greatest computer software engineer. Maybe you're not the greatest, mechanical engineer. Maybe you're not, but everything, can be learned and done by yourself. And once you have this confidence to DIY, now you are, empowered. You are a empowered soul that can make anything happen. That
yes,
is what we want to get to.
definitely we all need to do. And if you see today's world, all the top notch, top 500, Fortune 500 companies has a CEO of Indian origins, right? Most of the companies are led by Indian entrepreneurs or Indian IT professionals. So when you see this, Raj, do you think there is a problem with the ecosystem for the migration, or what do you think that India needs to do to retain the talent in India?
Well, I don't think India should care about retaining. For every Satya Nadella, we have probably another 1 lakh Satya Nadellas in India. Right? I mean, it's like the capability that Satya Nadella, he's obviously a very smart person, very capable, etc. But we've got a lack other Satya Nadellas in India. So why hold that one person back? Let him go ahead and flower in the world. And because he's Indian, I'm sure his heart will be in India. And
Exactly.
he's going to, and he's by leveraging his success at Microsoft and in India, he's going to do things for India that will be worth it. So my viewpoint is no artificial barriers to letting people chase their dreams, right? No barriers, because the more Indians succeed anywhere in the world, India actually succeeds too.
Exactly. Yeah.
So my viewpoint is we don't want any artificial barriers for, when I was graduating, there was this big thing about brain drain and everything. But yet 80% of my class came here to the US one way or the other. And, now if I look at how much these 80% of my classmates have given back to India, it cannot even be it cannot be counted. It's so much, right? So whether if they had sat in India, they would have done so much. But by coming to the US, succeeding in this bigger platform, what they give back to India is 100 times more. So that what than they could have ever done, right? So my viewpoint is that, you know, young people should be allowed to chase their dreams, whatever their dreams are, wherever it takes them.
Yes, of course. I think I agree with you. And being virtual now, we can do everywhere, anything. And even sharing
Absolutely.
of knowledge is also possible. And similar thing, I really think about Zoho. When you think about Sridhar of Zoho, what he has done in the rural areas. So in that grounds, what will be your message? See, now everything is in cities, right? So this pandemic has started because people can go back to their village and work from there. And exclusively Sridhar's example, he has been very unique, like bringing the corporate world to the villages. That also might really change the economy and also the way of living at villages too. So what is your thoughts in those angles?
Oh, I completely agree. So actually, last year's students, I had about 150 students between IIT Bombay and IIT Gandhinagar. I said that we are not going to solve the problems of the global economy. We are going to use our entrepreneurial energy to solve the problems of a villager in India. So I took these 150 IIT students to a village in a remote part of Gujarat and Rajasthan, near the Aravalli Mountains, very arid area, Adivasi area, and so on. And we took all the students there and I said, okay, now you go and talk to all these villagers. And they went and talked to all the villagers and spent time with them, understood their problems. And then, you won't believe it, but they came up with 30 amazing entrepreneurial solutions for solving and improving the villager's life. So uh, so it's and each of them has a potential to be a unicorn, and some of them are going to be funded, and some of it's going to, let's see. So the point is that, to me, when I see a major problem, I love it, because it's a major opportunity. Only if there's a major problem, there's a major opportunity. And so the bigger the problem, and rural India has a huge, huge, unlimited problem. So the opportunity for entrepreneurs is huge, huge, and unlimited.
Rightly said, Raj. I think people who are viewing or who will see the recorded version of this, they will definitely learn from your speech and they'll be motivated as well. And coming to our 4 E's, definitely we have touched 2 E's like education and entrepreneurship. Then let's talk about the employment and ethics, right? So how do you think these should be related in your entrepreneur world? How do you how do you really club these another 2 E's?
Yeah. So see, the entrepreneur decides what the rules for um, his company are. What are the rules under which the company is going to work, right? So, you know, um, he can decide that this is how this is how the hierarchy of the company is going to be. This is how we are going to deal with customers. This is how we're going to deal with fellow employees. So he can write the rules. It's a blank slate. And so, in just to give you a quick example, since I had come from the corporate world at Intel and GE, 80% of the time, and Praveen, you probably see this also, I've seen this, that 80% of the time we were in meetings. So the productive time was only 20%. So when we started Opti and Selectica, I said, no meetings in the company, 0 meetings. Can you imagine a company running with 0 meetings? How about that? So we said that if we can do 0 meetings, we're going to have 4 times the productivity of any other competitor. And so the way we did it is that the executive team has to have this meeting on Saturday. And it can start at 9 o'clock in the morning, but there is no end time. So it can end in 2 hours, it can end in 10 hours, but it'll end only when all problems of all the staff member, executives, or the staff members is addressed with an agreed upon solution. And so all plans are made on Saturday for the week, for the month, for the year, whatever. And on Monday morning, basically the managers are just disseminating all the plans, and it's a very well coordinated plan. And then again, next Saturday, another. So 0 meetings during the week. And our productivity was so high, we would explode in terms of speed at which we would do anything because we had no meetings. So, but the point is that, there was a culture that had to be created of no meeting culture, right? And and we all know the politics that happens in corporate meetings and all that stuff. And while we created an environment where there are no meetings, and so an entrepreneur can write his own rules about how his company is going to run or her company is going to run, and you just do it. So basically, one of the rules that we said is no hierarchy. So no sir business, no manager business, no nothing. We all have a job to do. We all work, right? So everybody is working, right? Without worrying about he's a boss, and that documents have to get three signatures before they. Then things like, one of the rules that I put when we're talking of ethics is that if any person in our company makes a commitment to a customer, even if it's not in writing, it has to be followed to the customer's satisfaction. It is like there is no, if any employee makes any commitment to the customer, we are going to follow it. Yeah. So basically, customers would trust us, right? When you have that kind of a policy that even your word of your lowest employee is kept by the company, right? So if you say that you'll get a sample in 3 days, the world will move heaven and earth in order to get the samples from the customers, right? So you decide what you want is the culture and why you want to get it done that way. And that is, how you set up the ethical and the employment processes in the company. Because you have a blank slate. You can decide what you want.
I think you have said rightly, 0 meetings should happen. I'm always, before even while working, I was always thinking how to track the meeting, how to count the meeting hours into budget or the cost and show to everyone. And second thing is choosing who needs to be in the meeting.
Yep.
Right? The same meeting will have 5 people from the same organization or team, and you get a lot of questions from the customers too sometimes.
Yeah.
So the last thing is delegation of power, right? When you trust your employee, you have the delegation very powerfully. You cannot have multiple approvals, multiple things which you cannot deliver. So today's entrepreneur world is struggling, Raj. Definitely people will only think about technology, revolution, transformation, but no one is thinking about their employees. No one is there thinking about how to make their life easy. They are all thinking about the customers, but how do we need to improve the employees, how to enable them to work efficiently? Yeah,
yes.
You rightly said maybe when I become an entrepreneur, I will implement all these things and be more productive.
You're probably already doing it because you're aware of, see, all of this does not come automatically. You got to have lived it, worked in an environment, understood the inefficiencies, understand, what needs to be done. Then you go ahead and put it in your system. So, you know, there is no such thing as, okay, here's a cookbook, right? Just follow the recipe. You know, life is continuously evolving and you have to, adjust to whatever's going on. But what do you depend on? You depend on your education and you depend on your experience. So education and experience and what you distill out of both of them, as an entrepreneur, you apply.
Exactly. One more question comes to my mind when we talk about employment. You said that almost a decade or 17 years or 15 years you worked in your as
Corporate.
an employee. So you also said one more thing, that every employee should generate more jobs, right? So in this context, what you learned in 17 years or 15 years, what is the message to the young entrepreneurs? For example, let's say someone is working in the organization. How does he needs to think through to become an entrepreneur for his own company or for himself? Is it possible today?
Well, if you're lucky, you're going to be fired or laid off or whatever it is. But, a lot of entrepreneurial journeys have started because they got fired or laid off or things happen in there. You won't believe it. The biggest explosion in US entrepreneurial economy happened when the Vietnam War ended.
Mhm.
And all jobs in defense industries, in aircraft and ammunition and all kinds of defense industries, everybody was laid off. It is when everybody was laid off, the entrepreneurial boom exploded, right? So in the 70s, right? So Vietnam War ends, and boom, you get Intel and this and that. All these companies got started, right? So the same way, if you're lucky, you're going to get fired or laid off, and you've got all these capabilities and skills, and now you apply it to, starting your own little thing, which will flower, which will flower, and you got to enjoy the journey of this entrepreneur, right? So, of this entrepreneurial journey. And you have all the skills to apply to create, yeah. So, but in general, my attitude is that you have to, get passionate about doing something that makes other people's lives or businesses work better, more efficiently, smoother, So you've got to find the kernel of your idea in doing something better, whether it's a process or whether it's something that you can, it's a tool that you develop to make something easier, better, whatever. And then, company building skills, can all come together to take that little thing that you can do better and apply it to even more people, all the people that have that need all over the world. Right? So that's how you scale up. So, yeah.
Raj, we have already seen 1.5 year of pandemic, right? And
Yeah.
we may also one more year. So during this journey, what is your experience? The entrepreneurs have come down or grown up?
Oh, I would say that entrepreneurship has probably exploded. I mean, I look at so many people coming up with different ways of leveraging this new environment. See, for entrepreneurship to happen on a large scale, you need a large scale disruption. Any large scale disruption is going to create entrepreneurship. It's like if there are 10 huge redwood trees, guess what? There is no room. There's no sunshine. There's no water. There is no nutrition in the soil for any other tree.
Yeah.
So those 10 redwood trees will basically occupy that land for the next 1,000 years.
Exactly.
And then you get a hurricane or a wildfire that destroys these 10 big trees. Guess what? 10,000 new startups happen in the same place that there were 10 trees. Same way, what a disruption of the COVID scale does. Think of the disruption that the COVID did, right? Entire economies of all these countries were put on hold, right? Lockdowns, etc. But yet the basic needs are still there. Everybody has to eat. Everybody has to socialize. Everybody has to get entertainment. Everybody has to do this. But the old ways of going to a cinema theater were gone, right?
Gone. Exactly. It's gone.
Old ways of going to a sports game were gone. Now you're going to enjoy sports some other way. So you can do it by gaming, by these electronic gaming apps, or you can do that by watching videos on Netflix or on some other channel or other online channel, or you can so everything that the basic needs don't go away, but the disruption meant that the big companies that had all the cinema theaters and all that, locked up the real estate, etc., are essentially out of the picture for providing that entertainment, for providing the games, for providing everything. So now opportunities for entrepreneurs to solve the same needs in a different way.
Right. Rightly said. Thank you, Raj. And last question before I hand it over your final message. The last question would be, what will be your message for the young entrepreneurs and the new entrepreneurs from the financial standpoint? Given the social media, given the investors in line, what is the message to approach and be successful?
Yeah, so I would say that, right now it's really lots of money chasing very few entrepreneurs. So that's the problem that we have right now. Now, obviously, an entrepreneur who's not prepared, who doesn't have an idea that looks very competitive or scalable, if it's got some fundamental problems, the investors will tell you that, hey, when they say no, they're actually giving you a message that there is something flawed in your thinking about how your idea can become a big business, right? So the important thing when every time you get a no from anybody, from an investor, is not to get disappointed, but to say why. What don't you like about the idea? What can I do to change it? Take it as a feedback, not as I don't like you. It's not an emotional no. It is a logical no. See, there's a big difference between a prejudiced no and a logical no. When a teacher says your answer is wrong, that is a logical no. When somebody who's a racist says, don't do this, don't enter the restaurant, that's emotional, prejudice no, right? Big difference.
Yes.
Right, because here the prejudice no means that poor black guy doesn't know how to change himself, or a Shudra doesn't know how to change his birth, right? But when somebody says, you're not ready to, for something, and it's a logical no, now it's like, how do I change? What do I need to do better? Can I work harder? Can I do this? Can I get a team member? Can I, so entrepreneurial investors are giving you logical no's. Mm-hmm. There's no prejudice. Oh, because you're Indian, I won't invest in you. Yes, that was there about 40 years ago when I was starting a company in Silicon Valley with Opti. All the VCs said no, because they would say, where's the chief? All of you are Indians. so they were looking for a white chief, and there was no white chief, because when we started Opti, there were 3 Taiwanese guys and myself. So 4 of us, all immigrants to America, non-white, brown, you know, uh, started Opti. And, we got a prejudiced reaction because, they had a concept that only companies that have kind of a mature, wise, or, or a white person from Harvard or Stanford or whatever can be a successful entrepreneur, start a successful business, because who's going to buy a product from an Indian and a Taiwanese, right? Who's going to, how are you going to market your product? How are you going to sell your product, because all the customers are white, right? Or whatever. Anyway, so, prejudice no requires a little bit more work. Even those can be overcome, and we overcame it, right? So we figured out a way to fund our company organically. We figured out a way to, develop a product organically. We figured out a lot of DIY techniques to do it, right? So, so the thing is that, but today's world is different. Today's world, prejudice is going away. And now it's all about logical no's, right? So when you get logical no's, take it as a logical no and figure out how to improve and learn from that by asking questions, figuring out, what you did know, introspecting, etc. And, you'll find the answers, you'll be better, and you'll get fun. And money will actually come in without any problem.
Yes. Thank you, Raj. I think you all have built confidence since 40 years, which is making our lives easy. And again, thanks for all of that. And given the time, we are almost, we crossed our time, but it was very interesting to listen from you, Raj. And the final message to all the viewers who are who are aspiring for entrepreneurship, what is your message to connect all the 4 E's? And we'll close the show.
Well, I would say that, entrepreneurship is probably going to be the most fulfilling way of living your life, right? We all are given only so much time. Time is not negotiable on earth. And you want to make it as fulfilling as possible. Fulfilling means, you've experienced everything that the world has to offer you. And an entrepreneur experiences life and relationships and kind of the world around him more fully than you would ever do as a corporate employee. So to have the most fulfilling life on earth, entrepreneurship is the only thing that will get you there.
Right. Rightly said, right, Raj? Thank you so much for all the message. And here is what we learn more from Raj is being confident, being independent, being positive, and learn from your mistakes. I would say I have summarized 4 or 5 things which really you in your entrepreneurship, and we will have more sessions and more lessons from Raj. And definitely, if you need any help from Raj, please feel free to reach out to us, and we can connect you with Raj. Thank you so much, Raj, and have a wonderful rest of your day. And thanks for making this time for us.
Thank you, Praveen, for giving me this opportunity. It was fun, and I think we had a very good discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay. Mm-hmm.